Well, bless you, bless you. Always sneezing, always sneezing.
Tis
Hello?
the season.
Tis the season to be sneezing. Yeah, you're not feeling very well today, are you, Gabe? So
No,
we're gonna try and take it easy on you today.
thank you.
Um,
I appreciate that.
Today we have an interesting one. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's been a few people hanging around orgs outside of them, uh, live streaming and causing general chaos within the Church of Scientology, which is excellent, I think. No matter how you do it, the more time and resources you can eat up on the Church of Scientology, the better, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Um, and I wanted to I think it's important to touch on something that's not really being talked about, and that is how Scientology actually sees this as a good thing, right? It seems weird to think that way. You would think any rational person would think, oh, people are attacking me. Maybe there's something I'm doing wrong. But that's not how Scientology sees it, because that's not how L. Ron Hubbard wrote how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, First of all, though, before we get too deep into it, if any of you guys are watching on my channel who are not subscribed to my amazing friend Gabe here of Escaping the Cultiverse A, do make
Yeah.
sure you check out her channel, because her and I are the only uh, more active Canadian voices in this sector, and I think it's important to support both of us, because although there aren't many Scientologists in Canada, there are still like 10 orgs that need to be dealt with,
Gotten rid
and
of.
yeah. And on that note, I would like to say a special hello to Andy from Vancouver. I mean, you're watching my video, Andy. For those who don't know who Andy is yet, you will find out who he is soon. I am working on a video in regards to this, so stay tuned. But let's get
Yes.
back into the meat of the things. In 1983, Bridge Publications actually brought out a whole booklet to address attacks that were happening, as well as infiltration and so forth that was happening in the Church of Scientology. And this is they called it the Signs of Success. And this is a staff only briefing that I've seen actually as a kid and as a teenager. I used to see these around the orgs. They're not there anymore, but basically the point of it is to give a bunch of LRH references to shore up the resolve for the Scientologists who are being attacked, essentially. Would you say that's accurate, Gabe?
Yeah. I'd say so.
Yeah. So in it, they have a bunch of references, and the first one I think that is most applicable is going to be this one here. It's called Signs of Success, and is HCOB or HCO Bulletin of 1 May 1958, which is a long time ago. So they've been being attacked for quite a while. But Gabe, you had a specific paragraph in here that you wanted to read. Would you like to read that to everyone?
Yeah, it was actually the first one where it says, whenever we're really winning, the squirrels start to scream. You can tell if somebody is a squirrel. They howl or make trouble only when we're winning. So
Right.
there's an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a Scientology's attitude, right? A Scientologist attitude.
Absolutely. So if I mean, David Miscavige though is saying that everything's perfect and everything's great for Scientology. So I guess in effect, by us speaking out so much and by all these people attacking Scientology and standing outside their buildings and so forth, that actually, thanks to L. Ron Hubbard, kind of reaffirms that in their minds. Would you say that's kind of how it goes, or?
Yeah, it does. It's they dig their heels in more. And I'm only saying this because I was on the other side. It's not like I don't know what each individual thinks. Just personally, that's it just fortified my purpose more. It made me think that I'm doing the right thing, because those squirrels, and it was always strange, like the definition of squirrels, because like they're considered SPs. A squirrel is somebody. Were you going to actually define that?
I have the technical dictionary here because my mom had a lot of materials she didn't get rid of. She was still
Yeah.
a believer in Scientology itself, but not of the organization. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Corporate
the definition of a
Scientology.
squirrel, there's actually two definitions.
Oh.
A squirrel is doing something entirely different. He doesn't understand any of the principles, so he makes up a bunch of them to fulfill his ignorance and voices them off on a PC and gets no place. So essentially, I mean, Scientology would look at it, he's gone by a bunch of misunderstood words,
Mhm.
doesn't have a comprehension of like how auditing works, and therefore um, does things wrong. And then number two is those who engage in actions altering Scientology or
Right.
offbeat practices.
So
Um,
both definitions assume that you are a Scientologist and that you're taking the technology of Scientology and not using it correctly. So this is was one thing somebody mentioned it, I don't know who, but the OSA called these guys squirrels. And
mhm.
they're not squirrels, so I don't understand. Like maybe that OSA staff member actually has an MU on what a squirrel is. Maybe she should be word cleared or something. I don't
I
know.
do think though that there it is a more of a colloquial term, and the
Yeah,
reason I say that is actually in this policy. He says
yeah,
to understand a squirrel, consider the reaction of somebody who could not run the fifth leg of help, which is essentially others helping other people.
yeah.
Um,
It's a
it's a flow
process.
as a I don't want to get too deep into that, but the
Yeah.
question: how could another person help another person? The thought of this makes some people spinny, right?
Mhm.
Drives some people spinny.
Mm,
That's a
yeah.
squirrel. They can't view other people helping others without going berserk. And the reason why I think that is attached to suppressive people is that essentially the definition of a suppressive person is somebody who is so stuck back, like according to Scientology,
In the
thousands, trillions, millions, whatever of years in the past, he's being attacked. It's an
Mhm.
incident where he's being attacked by maybe a bunch of people, maybe one person, and he's so caved in that he gets stuck in this. And up until present day, he still sees things around him as though he's still being attacked by these same people,
Yeah.
right? And so when he sees other people helping other people or Scientology making people more able,
Yeah.
um, he sees that as an attack on him because if those people who are attacking him become more able, then he will lose. It's this
It's so
uh,
convoluted.
it's a fucking convoluted thing. Excuse my
Yeah.
language. There goes any monetization. I don't care.
Oops.
Um, but like anybody who is attacking Scientology, this is this is them. Like they're
Yeah.
stuck somewhere according to Scientology, and that's how they see it. So that's why it's easy for them to just disregard anything they say as not true because it brings them down a level where they're not even really here, right?
Mhm.
So it's not
Yeah,
relevant.
I guess in normal terms, they're, um, dehumanizing.
Yeah.
So which
Yeah.
makes it very easy to fair game anybody.
For
Right?
sure.
You like, you set the stage for these Scientologists, uh, how am I wanna convey this correctly. So, the mindset of a Scientologist is these people are just SPs or squirrels, I guess you can use it interchangeably, so they just need to be attacked. They deserve the attack. They're just so messed up, really can't be helped. They don't want to see anybody else be helped. They can't handle watching people be helped. So just attack them. It's
Yep.
all good.
Exactly.
So
Um,
yeah, were you going to say something?
oh, go ahead. I'm just looking at another reference here I'm going to bring up, but you can
I
carry
just
on with that
wanted to
thought.
I wanted to just go back to something about this booklet that was written in 1983. Um 1983 was the year that the Toronto org was raided by 100 government agents. And I won't get into the whole story, but it is quite a fascinating story. It was sort of like a spin-off from the raid, or from the whole, what was it called?
Snow
Snow
White.
White.
Yeah.
Yeah, from that whole invasion of the government. And they actually found, as evidence in the court case, there was evidence of what Canadians were doing, where they were stealing documents and stuff like that. Anyway, so I just found it interesting that it was the same year that the raid happened. And also 1983 in December was the year that OSA was reinvented, or it was called the Guardian's Office, and then
Yep.
it was renamed, I guess, because of the bad PR it had as a result of all these court cases. They turned it into OSA. Just a little bit of Scientology trivia for you.
There's a lot of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So this booklet was my mom's, and she got it. This is kind of how I. Oh, she actually got it in 1982. Oh no, that's when she started her post. So this is
yeah,
her. This is her. Oh, you cannot see that. Anyway,
you can't see it.
yeah. So basically, she started her post in 1982, and this was her booklet. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it just says what year. It's interesting. I'd like to know specifically, maybe it's from someone who knows exactly when this was written, because maybe this was the first, like, OSA document, kind of, as that entity
Yeah.
that they put out. But yeah.
Well, it's a compilation of a bunch of references, right? There was also, I can't remember which reference, but one of the references actually was issued. Was it the Signs of Success? It was actually reissued in 1983, it said.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Um,
It was like written in 1969 and then reissued again.
could be.
But
No, that one was
so
58.
hmm, it might have been counter espionage or something like that, because that's
Yeah.
part of the pack too.
Yeah. Yeah. This pack is interesting because it's not just references too, but it has instructions to the staff member on what to do if they notice these things. Write a knowledge report, actually write the inspector general,
Hmm.
write to RTC, and
Yeah.
it lists out all these things to be looking for. Interestingly, at their own staff members,
Hmm.
right? So this isn't even just directed at outside like it is more today. Um, but yeah, it's fascinating to me because
Yeah.
I was 1 year old when this thing came out.
And I hadn't even been in Scientology. Hadn't even heard of Scientology then.
Hmm.
But again, it creates more of that snitch society, right?
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, you gotta think on people when you see something that is non-optimal.
exactly.
Or yeah, and in a lot of the references, he tells you what to look for, in people who may be, in that disaffected or kind of sour on Scientology. And I mean, it happens to this day. It's like basically how people get hauled into ethics and interrogated, because it's usually somebody writing a report on them,
Yep. Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, it's a self-policing environment for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure if these protests, if anybody is like any even public would be hearing about the protests and going into the org and asking about it, that they're going to put the guy on the cans, and he's going to be interrogated, and he's going to be, made to tell where you got this information from and all this other kind of stuff. And then they sort of corral you so you don't like spread your black propaganda through the org, right?
Yeah,
So they're very quick to jump on these kind of things.
there's whole ethics handlings for this type of stuff where as soon as one thing gets out, like let's say something about Xenu or whatever, David Miscavige beats his staff, which he does.
Yeah.
As soon as a truth gets out, that's black propaganda in Scientology's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
they do a whole like investigation to find out and trace it back to that person who started it. And then anybody who's heard it, they get re-educated. They'll get false data stripped.
Mhm.
There's whole like courses on how to handle this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and more likely majorly interrogated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody that I knew that got onto the internet or anything like that, that was like, first of all, their folders are tagged. Um, and it's usually tagged, it will say like OT only. So that means like only an OT can look into the folder. And then only an OT would be able to do any sort of interrogation, because if something comes up about Xenu or whatever, the OTs are indoctrinated enough um, to not pay attention to that kind of stuff. Or I don't exactly know how you would describe that, but they're the ones that would handle it, even if they're not an ethics officer.
Hmm.
They would have an OT actually who is trained in interrogation. They would have them handle this person.
Yeah.
I saw it a few times in Vancouver.
Was that with Joanne Gould? We should
She
do a
was
video
the
just on
enforcer.
Joanne.
Oh, I'd love to.
All right, all right. Let's not get too far in the weeds there. We don't want to get
There's
sued.
some real special people we dealt with.
Yeah. Actually, I will say though, with Joanne and I was so abrupt with her that I think she respected it. Like she would buy stuff from me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if she's still on staff right now or handling ethics stuff, we might need to be saying hello to her as well, and not just Andy.
Maybe. Hi, Joanne. Remember when you
Mm.
tried to get me to divorce my husband?
While her husband was sleeping on the floor in the basement. All right, all right. These guys don't know what the heck we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, but it's kind of obvious she's not a very nice person.
No, she's not. She's a
Yeah.
ball buster. All right. The next reference I wanted to show.
Ooh,
This is
okay.
called The Business of Orgs. This was actually written in 1983, so just before LRH died, right?
Yeah. 1983. Note 1983, the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So orgs are in the very new for this universe business of setting people free. Suppressive people will find all manner of reasons not to, for this is what they, with their own crimes, fear. Again, it's referring to them trying to handle the thing that is attacking them for all this time by committing crimes, right?
Yeah.
Thus, it follows that they cut dissemination lines, corrupt tech, suppress and confuse orgs, persuade people to be inactive, and resort to other shifts, all quite quote unquote reasonable. And reasonable here meaning not being like really standard technology
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out why things could be other ways. Um, Basically, reasonable is you have an open mind and
Yeah.
you're able to look at other things and you're not as indoctrinated as they want you to be. So all quite reasonable and logical as to why this must be the way it is. So be alert to this and go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and set people free. Blah blah blah. But basically, what he's doing here, I find, is he's creating an us versus them or a black and white situation where if they don't do exactly what Scientology says to do, then anybody who does other than that is evil and should be attacked or whatever.
Yeah.
Fair games.
Yeah. You're
And
not a friend, you're a foe.
exactly. And so there is
Yeah.
no like, and this is said so many places, KSW1, it's in or out. There's no halfway. You can't be partly in
Exactly.
Scientology.
Yeah.
Um, you just can't.
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly. It's something that just came to mind. It's kind of goofy, but I tell you, if anybody wanted a playbook and how to try and take them down, I mean, just follow their policies and do exactly what they say, because it's like this stuff. Like, for instance, the counter espionage reference, he tells you exactly, how counter espionage is done. like you can turn these references right around and totally use them against Scientology.
I love doing that.
Isn't that fun?
It's actually one of my favorite things about, like, you don't have to make stuff up about Scientology.
No.
You can just read their references. You know, when you're in an indoctrinated state of mind, there's some sort of a context that you're working off of to make it, like, fit into the puzzle piece, right?
You're trying
But as
to.
soon as you
Yeah.
take that context away, you're like, what is he talking about? This makes no sense at all."
Right.
And that's what I like doing. I like to, show the references.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
just make stuff
interesting.
up.
Sorry. It's interesting because in let's and I'm just doing a little bit of speculating here. In 1983, it's 3 years before he died, right?
Mhm.
And so he's already, I'm pretty sure from all the information that I've read and heard, it's like he's already extremely paranoid.
Yeah.
So it's like he's amping some of this stuff up now. He's really in around that time, he's really pushing hard on the counter espionage stuff, because there's lots of attacks on the church. He's telling staff, just put your head down, keep doing what you're doing, keep pushing the party, keep what is towing the party line,
Mhm.
keep your tech standard. And it's like this is and it gets reiterated all the time. It's like you're always refocused to the purpose.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a stupid purpose, but it's a purpose nonetheless, right? And like this whole, it sort of makes me think of why this whole administrative training is going on, right? These guys are supposed to come back and they're going to be perfect.
Yep.
They're going to handle everything. They're going to know it all. You can rely on them. It's going to revitalize people. It's like, yay, now we're going to make it. Now we're going to, it's always this carrot is being dangled in front of your nose. Oh, we're going to do it this time. It's going to happen this time. And I remember that, like with the whole ideal organ stuff, there always has to be some gimmick to keep those staff and public focused on what's on the purpose, on clearing the planet and stuff like and that's probably why he has to keep reinventing shit. I mean, it also is to get more money out of people,
Yeah.
but if you're not doing this stuff, people will lose interest, right?
And another thing too, I just thought of actually, I hate using Scientology in
I
my
know.
my thinking, but I'm looking at it like all these different evolutions and stuff are all just a hidden standard line. Like
Hmm.
these are, and for anyone who doesn't know, a hidden standard line is like something that you feel needs to be in before something else can be in, but it's not like in policy. So you're kind of making it up, right? And it's, I think the biggest one's the ideal org for sure. I actually
Hmm.
found references just casually going through another pack my mom had that literally says, don't buy extravagant buildings unless you have the manpower to, like, unless you need it, basically. Like,
Hmm.
just worry about service. Don't buy expensive things. If it works, just keep it. If it's
Yeah.
broken, then fix it, right? But you have all these org buildings that are
Extravagant.
they're extravagant, but they're not like the old ones, like Vancouver, for example. It's not full,
Mm-mm.
guaranteed,
No.
right? So why would they need a new building? If they
Yeah.
can't fill their smaller building, why would they need another building?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense unless you look at it from the aspect of real estate and money, and that makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
capitalism.
mean, where does all this money go with the ideal orgs? I was talking to somebody about it. It's like Toronto, for instance, like they had a building.
Yeah.
It was fine. All they had to do was renovate it. 20 years later, they still don't have enough money, or they say they don't have enough money. And I mean, there's people that donated millions, $1 million, like
Mhm.
more than one person. Like you can't tell me renovating a building that size costs more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, an example we had, I this is kind of just as a sort example. I lived in a condo that was called a leaky condo. To retrofit that, which meant, changing the outside, putting in new windows and patio doors and crap like that. That was around $9 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was 21-story high rise. Like, you can't tell me that they haven't raised enough money to do renovations in that building. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, of course, that's
Danielle
where it
saying
all
here,
goes. Yeah,
the money goes to reserves. Yeah. It goes up lines, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's never gonna happen. You're never gonna see all these ideal orgs, and this is part of me that goes, "Why can't they just wake up and see this?" Like, I mean, I thought about it. Like, I thought, like, and at that time, it had already been around 10 years. It's like, is this ideal org ever gonna happen? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all very strange. It's all a scam. But anyways,
Yeah. It's never going to
it's good to
happen.
no.
While we're at about this point here, if anybody has any questions, feel free to
Mm,
leave them in the comment. I am
yeah,
monitoring the comments here. Um, yeah. If you guys have any
okay.
questions about what we're talking about, happy to answer them. All right. The next reference I have here. So this one is going to basically LRH. LRH was good at making other people responsible for their stuff, right? Like nothing happens by accident. Anything is your fault. So
Mhm.
this one here, this is LRH Executive Directive 339R, which is the birthday game. It's a very, very popular reference that every staff member has read multiple
More than
times,
once.
multiple times, and it's friggin' boring. Let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so he says in it, outside interests that prey upon the org and seek to rip it off, a very widely out ethics planet, economics being run by idiots in governments. Don't disagree with that. People who interfere and tell you lies. Poof. All these factors were present in the days of Old St. Hill and Boston, which are original orgs that grew to a large size.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until those orgs themselves went out ethics that they shrunk. Only then could outside influences, aka the Squirrel Squad, affect them and prevent their own prosperity. Only this can prevent continued expansion. So, like, when you're looking at it from the outside perspective now, but when you're in, you're looking around at your org, Vancouver, let's just use that for example. It's always been failing,
Mhm.
right? Always. I don't know that there was ever a point where, for a long period of time, or maybe ever actually, that all their bills were paid.
Right.
The
Well,
light bill,
we
the
were
hydro,
solvent.
whatever.
It's called solvents.
Okay,
It's
you were solvent then, okay. But,
and
you
I'll
know,
tell you why if you wanna know.
I wanna know. Was it because Scientology was so popular that you guys made so much money?
No,
No? Okay. Okay, tell me why then.
because they were really good at scamming people out of their money.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like, there's some really good sale if you're a good salesperson, you can suck money out of people. And if you have a good income source, like a wise company or something that's feeding people to the organization, um, it's always a flow of cash for the most part, right?
Yeah.
But you can only convince people for so long.
Well, that's
And
the thing,
then
right?
yeah.
It's constantly an uphill battle. I mean, I
Yes.
remember when they didn't have enough money for toilet paper.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
and that
Yes.
happened on so many occasions
Yes.
that a staff member would buy toilet paper for the org, right?
Yes.
Which is ridiculous. But the point being with this reference with LRH is he's saying that no matter what's going on out there, no matter how bad the reputation is, how many people are out protesting, your org should still be expanding. But Andy, sorry, um, it's not expanding.
It's
Your
not
org is not expanding because to expand, your stats have to be going up.
up.
Wait,
Yes.
this way.
Yeah. And
And
Andy, take a look at the trends.
yeah,
I can tell you because I used to look at those stats all the time, and I would look at long-term trends. And that's coming from somebody who knows diddly squat about statistics and stuff like that. But they were always like this,
Yeah.
on a long-term year-to-year basis.
Yeah, when
It's
you
not
zoom out,
consistent. Yes.
like Vancouver was popular for a while, I think at one point. They were
Before
doing
it was
pretty
an
good.
org. This is like back in the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. There was a point where Vancouver was doing well. But if you look at how it was in the 80s, how it was in the 90s, 2000s, and now,
Yeah.
and the 10s, like I guarantee you it's not expanding, right?
Mm-mm. No.
So they may be looking at too short term of a stat graph, 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's not. So
Yeah.
he's just placing blame on the org not doing well, not Scientology, not his policy, but on
Yeah.
the staff
It's
members.
and that's the thing when you're always told that you're not doing enough, you're not trained enough, you're not anything enough. It's like it if most people just keep pushing forward, right? It's almost like a motivation.
Yeah.
At least it
Like,
is for me. If somebody says I'm not good enough, well, I'm going to show you I am, because that's just the kind of attitude I have,
exactly. And
right?
that is the one thing that actually, oh, I hear this is the other thing I wanted to say on this topic.
Yeah.
As a staff member, you're gonna love this. You might get triggered.
Oh no.
Um, this is something that you have, I guarantee, have Chinese schooled at least 1,000 times.
Oh no.
So if you like to
The
repeat
reason
with me,
for
you can.
orgs?
But the supreme test.
Oh, yes.
So as a staff member, you are an OT essentially. Same with Sea Org. Anyone who is a Scientologist technically needs to be OT, which means that they can just make things. I'll just read it here. The
Yeah, yeah.
supreme test of a Thetan is his ability to make things go
Things
right.
go right. Yeah.
And so that's essentially, if you can make things go right, you're an OT.
Yeah.
Right. So that is used so much to indoctrinate people
Mhm.
into looking in and trying to figure out what they're doing wrong when it really has nothing to do with them. It's their organization, right?
Right.
But
And if
it
you sorry,
sorry,
Jeff, go
it
ahead.
just puts you into this cycle of how am I doing things wrong? And then you get in ethics and because your stats are down, it's like, but then LRH says to be successful, you have to make things go right, but you can't. It's just this like back and forth. And it creates
Yeah,
this problem for people.
it is, and it's a constant fight. You're constantly either in flight or fight,
Hmm.
which is it's a constant stress. So and if your stats are down, or if you're not pulling your weight, you're in ethics trouble, and ethics trouble is horrible because it's all punishment.
Yeah.
So you see, it's like if you see a protester out there and you have a thought of, oh my god, are they saying something I should know, or have any sort of uh, doubt or reservation about about you as a Scientologist or as a staff member, you are trained, indoctrinated to just shoving that thought to the other side
Yeah.
and carry on. I because I know it happened to me. Like when I bumped into Jerry Armstrong, and he started talking Scientology to me, I was just like, I was shocked. I just stood there, and it's like, well, I thought he was just an SP. I didn't know that he was actually OT, and that he was actually a Scientologist, because you don't find out about this stuff. I bet you half of those guys that see like Aaron or Laura or Serge, they don't know who they are,
Yeah.
right? So they're just SPs.
Yep.
It's when they start to yell like Scientology lingo, that's when this is my opinion, that's when you start to put those seeds of doubt in,
Hmm.
right? So I mean, honestly, the whole protest, it really it's evolving into a lot of different approaches, which is, I think, the first time this has ever happened. Like, you have to have the existing SPs, the former Scientologists, they have to be doing their thing too, as well as the non-Scientologists, because the two approaches are, I think, in my opinion, are far more effective than like what Anonymous were doing.
Mm,
Because Anonymous, they weren't signed to, well, I mean, sometimes they throw in some, if it was one of the bigger protests,
yeah.
some of the SPs, ex-Scientologists would go, but for the most part, it was just Anonymous, and they were
Mhm.
yelling the Lisa McPherson. I didn't know who Lisa McPherson was.
Me either.
It meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Well,
that's my
there's a
rant.
huge difference between what's going on now and Anonymous for sure. They're completely different things. They're both valuable in their own right. Anonymous was like Anonymous was the catalyst that made people realize that they could speak out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that many people, because up until then it had been a lot of people, but separate people for the most part,
Mm-hmm. But
right?
wasn't the large groups of people in front of
Yeah,
orgs. Yeah.
exactly. A couple
Yeah.
people, maybe Jerry Armstrong, whatever, would be out there, and there's so many people that allowed Anonymous to happen, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that went through hell so that Anonymous could do that, so that the Squirrel Squad could do it, so we could do this without
Mm-hmm.
real repercussions, right? Like so many brave people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It is.
um,
It takes a lot of guts to do that. But I'll just say something. Don't underestimate Scientology. They've been
no,
around for a long time. They have very, very deep pockets, and they have a lot of very good lawyers. So, I mean, they managed to survive a government raid in Canada, right? Um, and Canada's not even tax exempt.
no,
Like, it's not a big deal here in Canada, but in the US, it's going to take a real shoulder to shoulder effort, and that's just my opinion on things, to completely take them down. And maybe you take their tax exemption away, but they're still going to keep doing their thing. I don't know if the abuses will stop, you know, but it has to be done, because they can't keep getting away with what they've gotten away with for like over 50 years,
no, I
the
totally agree.
atrocities.
I think, however, that the value in what the people are doing now is to get some people out, right?
Yeah.
But it's to stop people from joining in the first place.
Yeah.
That's going to be the downfall because
Yeah.
like you said, they have so much money. They could literally not take in any more money and live for a long time,
Yeah.
right? Um, and most of the people, like my dad, for example, he's 80 and he disconnected from me because I'm doing this
Yeah.
like weeks ago. That's how indoctrinated. I don't even think he's on lines right now,
Right. He's hardly
right?
even active.
Yeah. Like he doesn't know whether the ideal org exists in Vancouver, whether they have a building or not. Like
He's
that's
that out of
how
touch.
out of the loop he is. And he even said that. That's his words. I'm out of the loop,
Right.
and yet they
But
still
he'll
have that
still
hold.
follow. Yeah.
And there's so many people in Scientology right now like that, like Andy, buddy,
Dude.
like take a look at yourself. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that these protests are extremely important in order to, at the very, very least, drain org resources and shut those blinds. Shut
Hmm.
the test center, because that's less people able to go in. Right?
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
mean,
great.
it disrupts,
Yeah.
right? But like I was saying earlier, I don't know if any of the Canadian orgs know what's going on. I'm sure their DSAs know,
Yes,
or
for
at
sure.
least in Vancouver, they actually don't have a DSA right now. We know that.
Well, Susan is the acting one. I know that.
Yeah, you think she's
I
really
doubt that
going to
she's
do
on
anything?
post all the time,
Yeah,
but yes.
yeah. But and that's the thing. The orgs are small. They can't do a whole lot. In the States, they have more resources. That's what,
Yeah.
I know you don't believe me on this, but actually taking Scientology down to some degree or doing whatever damage in Canada, I actually think it's a good idea. That's my opinion.
I never said that was a bad idea.
Oh, okay. Somebody told me it was a bad idea. Well,
No.
not a bad idea, but that it wouldn't really cause or have an effect on anything. I think it would.
I think
It's
it
like
yeah,
it's kind of like what's that game where you pull the blocks out?
like Jenga?
Jenga. You start pulling the blocks out in all these other little areas, and eventually it all will cave in. So,
Yeah.
but there you have to be persistent.
I would say I agree with you, and I think it will change the landscape, but the
Mhm.
only one that will truly bring it down is the States. Because
Yeah,
the States is one of the only ones that has, like,
the tax exemption.
full religious exemption, you
Yeah,
know? A lot of other countries have partial or some sort of charity status or whatever, but
yeah,
not like the States. That and of
yeah.
course, that's where most Scientologists are, so
Well,
it's important.
it's not even a recognized religion in Canada.
Yeah,
Just note that. It's
yep,
not even a recognized religion in Canada.
yep, and we're the top hat of America. You would think that we'd be
Yeah.
recognized. All right, um, I think this is the last reference I wanted to go over here. This is your favorite one, I know.
What your post in life?
You're okay, yeah, this is, Keeping Scientology Working Series 28, Esto Series 55, Your Post in Life. Now, this is from
Yes.
1983 as well.
Uh-huh. See?
Actually January again, which is right after the last one we just read. So this is when he's finishing up as a what, OT 9 and 10, is that right? Um, so I'm not gonna read this whole thing,
Oh
but
god, no, please.
a vital datum has emerged in my recent whole track research.
Oh boy, whole
Oh,
track.
geez.
That's such
Smoking a
bullshit.
little bit too much there, LRH. Um,
No, I think he popped pills.
oh, yeah, sorry, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah, the
cocaine.
barbiturates.
Alright, uh,
Mhm.
if one knows the tech of how to do something and can do it and uses it, he cannot be the adverse effect of it. So that's the stable datum.
Yes.
And then so number 5 here, and this
Oh
is
yeah.
this is taught in the PTSSP course, like, this is a big deal to know this. And, I don't know
Ye
why Scientologists don't try to confront SPs because it's written in their policy that they're supposed to. But number 5, an SP confronted by someone who knows and can use all the tech concerning SPs would shatter.
Yeah, read that again. This
Okay.
is very important. This is Scientology's doctrine. This is what the Scientologists are supposed to do when they see an SP.
Yeah, because literally every Scientologist who's been in Scientology for, let's say, 10 years has done the
Mhm.
PTSSP course. Like, some people,
Except for
my
me.
dad's done it like 3 times. Clearly, that didn't work for him because all he can do is run.
Right. And
Number
disconnect.
5, an SP confronted by someone who knows and can use all the tech concerning SPs would shatter.
Right.
Like,
Well, you know what, Jeff? You know what I think the problem is? They don't know all the tech concerning
mm,
SPs. That's the problem.
interesting.
Yeah.
So they all have misunderstood words, or like, what are you
Abs
implying here?
Out ethics, criminals, the
Mm,
lot of them. Yes.
that's a good point, but that's what they're calling us.
Exactly.
Ah,
And then they're running and they're wearing masks. Like, I can't get over that one. Like, the staff members are wearing masks, and I know it's not to protect themselves from COVID or whatever.
yeah,
It's not.
yeah,
Because they're young, there's young anyways, because they're very, what are they? They're conspiracy theorists and stuff like that, most of them. So they're not gonna believe this stuff. And they also, for the most part, don't really believe in germs.
yeah. And here's Lorna. She says, "I believe that the reason Scientology doesn't want members to confront SPs is because they will cognite and see that the SPs are the sane ones."
Same ones.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean,
That
not
is
all sane, but
yeah.
at least correct. I've never been
Yeah.
called sane before.
No.
But who wants to be sane anyway?
Yeah,
That
that's no
sounds
fun.
boring.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot what it was.
Oh dear.
I know.
I was gonna say something about disaffection.
Okay. Well, why don't you do that and see if my train re-enters the station on that
Okay.
thought?
So there's a word called disaffection that is a very popular term in Scientology, and and if you have any doubts, or if you question, or if you talk about, like, let's say you go into the org and say, hey, what's up with these demonstrations, they would consider you sort of like disaffected. And this is the definition. It's a little bit long, so bear with me.
Mhm.
He says black propaganda about the organization's staff or about the Church of Scientology pushed off on Scientology staff member by a criminal in hopes of brainwashing the staff member into having doubts, lessening his loyalty to the group, etc., with the aim of causing that staff member to act in a destructive manner within the org. That's what disaffection means. So,
Hmm.
in other words, if you say something bad about the Church of Scientology, about the organization, like, it's not clean, or which it usually isn't, at least in Vancouver org, or let's say that staff member rubbed you the wrong way, or took your last $100 so you couldn't buy groceries, this is considered disaffection.
Mm.
Right? So basically, this is, what does it say? With this one, with disaffection, you can get foul ups, which may be like basically accident, but it's not. It's intentional. So
Yeah.
this is it. These are all these outside influences that the orgs and Scientology is completely paranoid about, which is one of the reasons why they shut the blinds, because they
Yep.
don't want to hear anything about it's all black propaganda. When you say it's a cult, that's black propaganda.
Yep.
When you say you only get paid $40 a week or whatever, that's black propaganda. Everything that is being said is black propaganda by the protesters. Therefore, plug your ears, shut the blinds, and just let the OTs out there, because they're the ones that can handle it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't want their members to be disaffected.
No, and I think Lauren is right in that comment though. Like the reason that they won't listen to anything is because, or they don't want them to listen to anything, is because
Yeah,
they
because of the
they are afraid they're
doubts.
going to cognite, like I did, like you did, like
Yeah.
so many other. I think it's probably true. There are more ex Scientologists than there are Scientologists at this point. I think it's
Yeah.
probably true,
Oh yeah,
right? Because
absolutely.
I mean, I think there's got to be at least 100 to 1 of people who are speaking out versus not speaking out or haven't spoken out, you know, that are just
There's a
sitting
lot
there.
of people under the radar.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
lot.
And
And yeah.
this is another thought that popped into my head today, was like I was just like rethinking about things like Reckless Ben and stuff, who have, and the recent CBC, I think it was, in reported that infiltrated orgs,
Mm-hmm.
because in this pack there's all kinds of stuff about infiltration and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking, like, it's got to be so scary for them to see someone join at this point, that they must have this like such major paranoia. Is this
Mm-hmm.
person really interested? And like they could never truly, I think, bring them into the fold at this point, because they'd be just worried, and
Mm-hmm.
they'd have to sec check them like crazy, and
And they do.
you know.
They do.
But
Like
but,
when I
but
was
that
on the
but you can
hiring lines.
but
Mm-hmm.
you can not read on meters very easily if you know how, right? So
Yeah,
anyway,
you
go ahead.
can if you know how,
Yeah.
but like when I was the ED, the executive director, and we would hire people, we would never go through the proper hiring lines. I don't even know if I knew the proper hiring lines, to be honest with you. It's
What do
like,
you
great.
mean?
Well, I mean,
Like
there's,
the routing form?
yeah. Um, I don't even think we did that. It was so loosey goosey.
No wonder the
So,
org
but
didn't expand.
that's right, because I was a squirrel.
That's right.
Um, but now, like when I was there, on the hiring lines, it's like everybody got put through those interrogations, like the A to J checks and all sorts of checks.
Hmm.
And it would then go to the case supervisor to look at.
Mm,
So there's as the years have gone on, there's been more and more security put in as a paranoia measure. Like,
yeah.
even when I went to Los Angeles with Chuck when we did marriage counseling way back when, like, we had to go down to LA because he's OT5 and he can only have a certain classed auditor, blah, blah, blah. So we were actually at AOLA, the blue buildings that you guys see that people are watching where the protests are. And even there, I got interrogated, like as a preliminary thing to going in for the marriage counseling. Like,
Mm,
marriage counseling is like a, a a basic service, like it's a division 6 service. It's not even like a major service. I was actually surprised. I'm like, I was qualified for, I don't want to get into that, but I was, how do you say, like, I was HCO qualified. There's
yeah.
certain qualifications and stuff like that that you
You were
have to have.
trusted.
Yes, basically
Yeah.
I was trusted, and even at AOLA they still interrogated me. So that's how paranoid they are,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they don't
Anyways,
know you for Adam, right? So
of course not.
um, you're just some random person to them.
Yeah, they have my folder, right? Because that has to go first. They have my pre-clear folder. Everything is in there, you know. Anyways, it was just so weird.
Yeah.
I felt really strange because it's like, wow, they don't trust me. You know, it was just another red flag for me. And that wasn't too long after that we left.
Mm. Well, it is a very different experience going from even a Canadian Steward base to a real one like PAC, the
Hmm.
big blue building, and Flag or whatever. Flag's even probably more, but I
Yeah.
noticed a massive difference, and that was actually a really big reason why I left the Sea Org in 2012, because the difference in just like the untrusting, demanding environment was so much more there. Whereas,
Yeah.
I wasn't
Amplified.
running everywhere in Toronto, but you have to run everywhere in
Yeah.
LA. Like, you
Yeah.
don't walk. The only time that you're allowed to walk is if it's like an out PR thing for if there's public around. You're
Right.
not going to be running through the lobby unless it's an emergency. But if you're like
Right.
down the hallway or on a mission or something, you don't just dilly dally there. You go.
Yeah.
um, and when I got down there, I'm like, holy, this is not what I signed up for. Like, it's
Yeah.
different. Anyway,
Yeah,
I was misinformed apparently.
yeah, the discipline factor is definitely 10x, let me tell you,
Yeah,
down in the States. There is quite a difference in, maybe we're just a little more laid back in Canada, except when, like when the Shelley Hawkett came back from her flag training,
yeah.
things sort of took a turn for the nastier when she came back. But
Well,
and
she
I
had the
noticed
flag
that
stick up her butt.
she had the flag. Yeah,
Oof.
exactly.
And it was up there.
Yeah, yeah. She was pretty hardcore. But she was also, her marching orders were to report to flag directly.
Mm.
So she would she would bypass middle management, which was in Canada. So she was it was so she would bypass middle management and go and report directly her statistics to whatever senior management there was that was over the case supervisors.
Hmm.
So that was the big change that I saw too. All these little things that I observed as time went on, and how things got more and more hardcore and harsh. Like in the beginning when I was in, it was actually a more welcoming environment
Mhm.
to some degree, right? And but when I left, it was brutal. It was kill or be killed.
Yeah.
That was in essence what it was. Like if you couldn't hold your ground, you were mowed over.
Well,
And I mean
especially in
that's
such a
what I
big post like yours, right? Like your
yeah,
post was like had a lot of attention on it,
a
right?
lot. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I digress. Sorry.
Yes. Well, that's what this is for, digressing. But I digest.
Digression central.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about the
The
thoughts about
protesters?
Scientologists finding
Yeah.
success in all this?
Um I mean, I my feeling is that there may be a little bit of underestimation of what Scientology can actually stand up to.
Hmm.
They can hold their own.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a message to people. It's like you got to be in it for the long haul. You got to be willing. It's like people have been fucking annihilated. Pardon my French, but they have been annihilated by the church. So, and like I was saying earlier, they have a lot of money,
Hmm.
and they have a lot of influence. And you can see the influence now in LA. Like when you're in the pockets of cops,
Yeah.
I would be really worried, because that to me is scary. Like, a dirty cop can cause a lot of damage.
Yep.
So it is being alert, and but just keep going, because I think it's going in the right direction. But it ain't going to be a cakewalk, let me tell you.
No, and it's never going to go away.
No,
It just
not
isn't. Not
completely.
at least not in this lifetime. Maybe in a couple lifetimes. But at the very least, it will slow them down. It'll stop people from joining, and maybe, hopefully, make some people wake up, and if only just to get away from the shit that's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to do a lot of TRs to put up with this kind of stuff. Like
Mhm.
day in, day out, it's gonna grind on some people, and they will leave.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
let's hope so. I really hope that they'll just, some people will just go, I don't need to take this, because they're abused day in and day out
yeah,
within. So
yeah,
if they're getting the abuse from outside as well, some people just aren't made for that, and it's like, I'm out of here, and
yeah.
let's hope that happens.
Exactly. And maybe also I would recommend that people spread a little bit of kindness,
Yeah,
instead of just don't attack the Scientologists. The Scientologists are victims.
yeah,
Um, Wake them up
yeah,
and offer
exactly.
them,
Wake them
show
up.
them compassion, because that's ultimately that I think will go a little bit further than just yelling Xenu cult, blah, 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 you know, because if people see the SPs as what they're told that they are, all it does is reaffirm things. If they see them as human beings, tell them your story.
Yeah.
Like I know it probably didn't register with the guy in St. Hill, Luca, the chief of security, because I think he was just trying to distract me. But I told him that I was disconnected from my mom when I was 14, and you know, I was a human being. I wasn't just a random person. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously, everyone has to do their own healing, their own everything, their own way. I just
Mhm.
would make sure you respect people as well, because that's important.
Yeah. I mean, hollering all sorts of, nastiness at the Scientologists only makes them dig their heels in more.
Yep. It's just the way it works. It's the way the indoctrination
Yeah.
is. It's
And then
how
you get the
Ellerate.
finger. You get
Hey?
the finger like that German woman did
Oh
at
yeah.
Aaron the
Oh
other night. Oh, she was pissed. But you
yeah.
know what? He got under her skin. He got under her skin. But it's like, okay, fine. So what's that
Yeah.
gonna do?
Well,
Don't
that's the thing.
know.
You don't know. You don't know.
Don't know.
But
But yeah, you never know. Maybe
maybe it's
that's
just the
enough.
Canadian in me. I don't know.
And
I just
don't forget, these people are under like a tremendous amount of stress. Like
yeah.
those Germans who are there, they're probably doing their OT7. They probably paid a lot of money in American dollars. Actually, no, I guess the euro is the same. But anyways, Canadians pay way more money, by the way, to go up the bridge.
Not
So
if you go to
they're
South
all
Africa like Peter did.
that's right. Um, God. Yeah, they're always under stress. You're always
Mhm.
under stress for money, time. Uh, isn't that what makes the world go around? Money and time. Um, so yeah, just understand that they are under a lot of stress, and some of them can be really nasty.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it, if you corner a wild animal, because if you think about with what you're talking about with the stress, if
Hmm.
they leave Scientology, they lose their family,
Yeah,
they lose their job,
yeah,
they lose connections, friends. They've already sunk, in the case of these German people, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, into this. And so if you back someone into a corner,
yeah,
they're human beings, and someone could get hurt. You know,
yeah, yeah,
um, who knows? But anyway,
yeah.
I'm not going to try and tell people what they should or should not do. I
No,
just will only
exactly.
throw out
I know what I
recommendations.
would do.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I just
There are.
wanted to
Oh
go
no,
ahead,
go ahead.
Jeff. Oh, I wanted to mention
Mhm.
that there is an Ideal Oregon, Canada, in Cambridge, and I was thinking of doing something or other, not exactly planned, but if anybody else is interested in just taking a peek at what the building looks like or anything like that, contact me. I would love to talk to you.
Yeah,
And yeah, just check things out, see what it looks like. It's big, apparently. I have never seen it. I may know some people in there, I may not, I don't know. And as the weather
um,
sort of clears up here, it might be a good time to sort of take a little road trip.
yeah, it's pretty cold there. Hey.
Yeah.
Well, so Cambridge though, can you? I saw Matt Elliott's video.
Yes.
MAA SPTV MAA Canada. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's
I,
not here. I'm
is he here?
surprised, but anyways. No,
Okay.
he's not in the chat.
Um, from his video, were you able to see whether he was able to get onto the property, or is it just like you can't even get close to the building? Because that would make things
That
difficult.
that was something that I actually had thought about when I looked at it. I don't know. I um, you can definitely stand out closer on the street as people walk in.
Hmm.
Um, and I also know that they have the events, they have their large events there too. So there may or may not be an opportunity for that. Um, yeah.
Hmm.
So if
Okay.
anybody I actually I'll put my email in the description after this so anybody can contact me.
Yeah, I'll
And
throw it in mine as well.
okay, that would be perfect.
There are some comments, questions if you wanted to
Okay,
tackle a few if you got time.
absolutely. I have all the time in the world.
Mhm. Oh, the retired life, eh? I guess I'm semi-retired too, though. So, all right, Nerman. I'm not sure if you're still here yet or not. Not Nerman. This
Question
was a
does
while ago.
oh,
Does anyone know what was in on the secret IS agreement in '93?
IRS.
Yeah, I'm
No.
actually not. not sure specifically.
That's the tax exempt one.
Yeah, exactly.
1993.
I'm not
No,
entirely sure what you're referring to exactly, but
I
yeah, they
can
had a
I
bunch
take
of
a stab at
lawsuits.
it?
Sorry?
One of the things that I know was in there, which changed a lot of how Scientology handled their public, was that they would ensure that the public and staff would pay their taxes. There was some, I don't exactly know how it was put in there, but I do know that on a lot of these security checks, you are asked about your taxes. Have you
Hmm,
paid your taxes? Do you owe taxes? Have you filed taxes? That kind of stuff. So
hmm.
I think that was kind of like a little favor that Scientology agreed to doing. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. And maybe that's a question somebody can ask Mr. Rinder at some point if you ever are in a live chat
Yeah,
on his channel.
that would be cool. I do know that, I mean, obviously the reason that thing even happened was because there were so many lawsuits that the Scientology launched against all of their members
Yeah. Yes.
individually, that they
Yes.
were just put under pressure to do it.
Yeah.
So,
It
yeah,
gives you
that's
an
such a big
example.
topic.
It is a huge topic, but it also gives you an example of what they can do.
Yep.
The lengths that they will go to destroy
They're very petty,
and evil.
very petty. Um, let's see. This is kind of a two-parter here because I can't show them both
Okay.
at the same time. But Danielle, I'd
Oh.
love to know what the thinking is behind them building all these very expensive buildings. Is it
Oh.
just to build a massive real estate portfolio for investment purposes, or do they think that by having a beautiful building, more people will be attracted to join?
That's the short story.
Yeah. So
That last part.
the reference being ideal orgs, that David Miscavige is apparently working off of, but very much squirreling, um, is basically saying that the quarters have to be attractive enough so as to not to repel people.
Hmm.
And I don't know if he just had a misunderstood word about repel or something, or he took the importance and just like inflated it.
Yeah.
Um, but this story he says is, yes, people want to join. Who wants to go in these shitty little orgs like Vancouver or Sunderland? And I
Yeah.
get it. I don't want to go to either of those orgs ever again.
Yeah.
They're disgusting. Um, but the real reason though behind the scenes is investment.
Hmm.
Um, twofold. Obviously, having that portfolio means the money is still there, but also because the church can't hold on to money. It can't amass so much money, and they're bringing in so much money, they have to put it out. But this is the only way they can put it out without losing it, essentially.
Is that money laundering? I think
I'm not sure
you're
about
not up
that
on your
actually.
money laundering stuff. Hang on here.
I don't know if it's necessarily money laundering, but it could be, I suppose. All right. Speaking of Mr. David Miscavige, do you think DM will be arrested and charged for his actions? No, I do not. Um, what about you, Gabe?
Hmm. Well, I don't know if I can answer it just yes or no.
Mm,
I think he has access to a lot of money. He has access to things, planes he can escape to. I'm sure he has plans on how to evade, just like Hubbard did.
yeah,
He never got caught. So they're master evaders. So
they're
I
Fabian.
don't yeah, I don't think he will get caught. Just I mean, they can't even serve him. They
Yeah.
can't even serve him papers for God's sake. It's just like the guy is yeah. They have so much money. It's
Well,
crazy.
the interesting thing, I forget if I was listening to a podcast or something about this. I might have been on Chris's channel. Anyway, he's talking about like Keith Raniere
Yeah.
as the leader of Nexium,
Next year. Mhm.
um, versus David Miscavige, as far as like they nailed Keith Raniere because it wasn't a religion. And so as long as Dave Miscavige is in the religion, I don't think that he'll be charged. I think if the tax exemption goes away, then the door is open.
Mm.
I certainly think he's going to be responsible for a lot of lawsuits. If he ever does get served, a lot of money is going to go out. But that doesn't matter because it's not his
Mhm.
money, right?
Mm.
There's no real effect to it. I think that it will set up future potential criminal convictions, or at least him being charged if those lawsuits go through, and human trafficking and stuff, and it all kind of build up as like precedent.
It's gonna take years. It's gonna
Yeah,
take years. It's just like that raid in Toronto we were talking about earlier. It took 10 years, and maybe I think 3 people got convicted.
yeah, yeah.
10 years. Like, they have the money to drag this stuff out, you know?
The justice system is also really messed up.
And it's
So
slow. Yeah.
yeah,
And they have influence.
yeah, and I think that if you have the will to fight, which they do, they will just keep fighting.
Mhm.
So there. Sorry for that sad answer, but no.
Bummer, eh?
um, but the good thing is less people are joining Scientology, so one
Yes.
day it'll be gone.
Yes, and then that'll slow the flow of the money to him. But then, he can just start selling off properties. Like, there's no end to the amount of money this guy has access to.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And the really funny thing, and like connected what we're talking about here, about the harder we fight against them, the more it
Mhm.
shores up the Scientologists.
Mhm.
If Dave Miscavige puts out an issue tomorrow and says, you guys need to donate more, our war chest is running empty,
Yep.
you see what's going on out here.
Yep.
All these people fighting in Scientology, we need your help to get stronger,
Yep.
either through the IS or whatever
Yep.
front group they decide to go with.
Yep.
Um, it'll happen.
And they've
And
done it.
yeah,
They did it
100%.
with the whole Portland crusade.
Yep.
My husband went to the Portland crusade. There was a lawsuit with the Wolsheim. It's like so many Scientologists went down there. They dropped what they were doing. Scientologists, and just like any other cult member, they're very dedicated. They're like insanely dedicated because they're
Yeah.
so indoctrinated or brainwashed or coerced or whatever. They will move mountains to do shit because that's how the whole cult coercion aspect of things work. So
Exactly.
yeah.
All right. What do we got here?
More.
Lorna, any
Any
thoughts on the
thoughts?
latest thing where Scientology blares copywritten music during the Squirrel Squad to have their streams channels taken down? Yeah, I do. It happened
Okay.
to us at the IS protest.
Oh.
However, they learned that they have no power over that money, or that copyright. And so the reason that they're blaring their own music is because they can then do the
Oh,
striking themselves.
right.
Um, it's pretty obvious. However, um, people who know how YouTube works, because I actually uploaded something and got copyright struck, not by
Oh,
Scientology, but by someone else who didn't actually even have the copyright for it. Um,
really?
and I sent in for a review, and basically the way it works is you send in a review of that claim,
Right.
and then the party has, if they
10
do own
days?
it, has 30 days to either fight you on it or not.
Oh,
Usually doesn't
okay.
take that long, but they released it because they know they don't own it. It was a weird thing, where someone used LRH lecture in their music as the beginning, and then
Okay.
they copyrighted that song, and so therefore it noticed that I was using LRH lecture and
Wow.
copyright it. Or anyway,
Yeah.
basically,
That's
if you own it, you can claim it. But again, then Scientology would have to sue the person, the Squirrel Squad,
yeah.
and they would never do that because it'd be stupid to do that, because they would lose. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's just being annoying. I think the problem comes with them that if you get struck 3 times within 90 days or something like that, then your channel just is immediately deleted. That happened to Doug Kramer and his channel, as far as I know,
Oh,
because he
okay.
had some stuff on his original channel, um, which I actually subscribed to way back then.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. It's just that's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to get people's channels deleted.
Yeah, it's just it's an inconvenience.
Yeah,
So you have to be willing, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, you have to be willing to deal with that nuisance,
yeah,
and just understand what you're doing. Um yeah, like they'll do anything, and I mean, it happened like that same night, because I was watching Jessica. I was watching, was it Jessica or Chris? I think it was Jessica. And all of a sudden, no, it was Chris.
hmm,
And all of a sudden it just disappeared. And it just kept blaring that "Flag is Here" music. It was like, it was awful, and it was loud. You could really, really hear it.
yeah.
But so yeah, he just he went back on, but it was that same message that people have been posting came up, that it's copywritten by the Church of Scientology International, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was happening while they were streaming. So they're watching. There's no doubt that they're watching.
Yeah. I have evidence of that actually, which I'll be
Yeah.
going into in another video, potentially tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that, and that's Gabe's
Okay.
thoughts on that. um, to be
Any more?
categorized as disaffected provoked a Sea Org member to be sent to the RPF. What did they do to public members and now? So Sea Org
Nothing.
members, if they're disaffected, they go to the RPF. What happens to you as a
Oh,
public
public
if you're found
members?
to be disaffected?
Oh, well, I can tell you that from firsthand knowledge. What happened with my husband is, you're summoned into the org like a piece of paper. A person in HCO like myself would write this summons, which I did, on my husband. And he got hauled down to the org, and he was put on the meter and asked very, very pointed questions. He was interrogated
Hmm.
by Shelley Hawkett. And then he ended up going down to Flag. So
Do
a
you
lot of pressure is put. That was when they it's a very long story. But he ended up going down to Flag after all of that interrogation to basically save his own ass.
did he when he was in that interrogation with Shelley, did he fess up to things or
Well, there wasn't
um
anything for him to fess up to. I don't think.
well, in Scientology's mind there was.
Yeah. Um, I think some of the stuff there was. I think he mentioned something about being disaffected with management.
Hmm,
He was basically sent to do ethics.
right.
So yeah, they do haul the public in, and they do handle them with their ethics stuff. It's basically a punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you're made to read references, but you're interrogated too. You're interrogated, and because you just let's and it was with Chuck. He had a disagreement with all this Ideal Org stuff and all the money that was being taken from people. He had an issue with that, and that's legit. Like, I was on staff and I was hardly working, and he was driving a bus, which is a very stressful job, and that was the extent of our life,
Hmm.
right? So Yeah, wouldn't you be pissed and you keep being asked for more and more money? Like,
Yeah.
take a hike.
You know what? I was pissed at other people being asked for more and more money.
Right,
Like, I wasn't asked for a lot of money because most of the time in my Scientology career, well, I couldn't afford Scientology, but
right.
so I was on staff. And that's what I would do is
Yeah.
I would watch people constantly, including my dad,
Mhm.
all this money sucked from his wallet, um, not just for Ideal Org, but also for services down at AOLA,
Yeah.
where the OT levels are done,
Mhm.
knowing full well that he would never be able to do the OT levels. They kept
Wow.
getting advance payments from him,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars. And I would watch this and I would get really upset about it
Yeah.
because, you know,
He couldn't
people don't know
afford
much
it.
about my dad, but he's had a psych history. He was electroshocked. Um, he went clear in the 70s, apparently, but has never progressed since then.
Right.
Um, and yet is still dedicated. But yeah, like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff was upsetting to me. And then year after year, year after year of money being sucked out of people for this ideal org, that was never going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not going to happen
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Yeah, and most
You know,
public Scientologists, like the general public, your run of the mill Scientologist is not rich. You
Mm,
know, they work like crazy. And a lot of them don't work in offices and stuff like that because it just doesn't pay enough money. So a lot of them are self-employed. So, and it's a tough go. Like even just for a public Scientologist, let alone the guys in the Sea Org and the staff.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
anyways,
And the
so
staff
that
are
I hope
broke.
that answered yeah, I hope that answered, what's that name? Inquad
Yeah. So
Quads?
this is a friend of Cass, Theta Novus.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. We got one last one, and I'm gonna share
Oh,
my screen during this.
oh, are
Do you
you?
know
Okay.
anything about the Edmonton org? Gabe, do you know anything about the Edmonton org?
No, I was in LA with the Edmonton Orgs ED way back when. Um,
This is
I
all we
know
know about Edmonton org. This
wow,
is
it's
it.
pretty oh my god, that's
This
it.
right here is the Edmonton
Ooh,
org.
oh, did they show pictures inside?
Apparently, let me see.
Let's see. Oh, wow.
No way. That's their course room, I guess. This
Yeah.
one's reserved for seniors.
Seriously,
Interesting.
that's what it says?
That's what that says. Oh, is this the chapel? This must be during the pandemic because look at
Oh,
how
yes,
spaced
there.
apart these chairs are in this dank little area. That's gonna stop all the stuff. Hold
Wow.
on.
Somebody said here,
Here we go.
they recently moved to a new building. I guess that's the new building? I don't know, it
Well,
kinda
this is
just
February 2023. Here's a few of their volunteer ministers. Oh, they must
oh.
be handing stuff out.
Oh, that's so they like to go to the, like, marathons and stuff like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what
It's
we
a
know about
little
the
more
Edmonton building. It's
yeah, it's a little more
tiny and
office looking. It actually looks better than the Vancouver org, quite frankly. It's much smaller.
I remember making fun of them because in the birthday game,
Of
just thinking
course,
about
they
how like even though they might be winning, it's like, yeah, but there's like 5 people.
we would always yeah, our competition was Toronto and Vancouver. That's
Yeah,
who we
and
played
Quebec.
against. And Quebec.
Quebec.
Wink.
Yeah. Oh, now we're gonna get the French people upset. Don't do that.
Uh-oh. Sorry.
Don't do that. All right, Gabe. Hey,
Is that
everyone
it?
in the chat. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're watching this on the replay crew, leave some comments in our respective comment areas. It helps with the algorithm and so forth.
Oh, really? I didn't
Um,
know that. Oh, I
so
also
many
have
things.
I don't know if I can pull it up. I don't think I can. Buying me a coffee. I keep
Mm,
forgetting. And if you haven't subscribed to me, please do.
yeah. if you would like to buy myself or Gabe a coffee, we do this for fun. But it is nice to have some support thrown our way every now and then. That would be amazing. And it
Yes.
looks like I am wrong about this person, so let me just correct myself here.
Oopsie.
This is not Theta Novices. They have very similar handles, though. But sorry about
Uh-huh.
that. I didn't mean to mistake you there. Um, what were we saying? Coffee, yes. If you'd like to support our channels, that would be much appreciated. If not, that's totally cool too. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, though, it's free. It's fun. Poke that little button.
Poke the
And
button.
then, yeah. Until next time, thank you for joining me, Gabe, and thank you for all in the chat. Bye.
Bye, everybody.